What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and I'm sure some of you predicted this video would be coming, but today we're going to be taking a look at a triple spider themed team in the Jungle Cup, featuring the newly released Spidops, Shadow Galvantula, and Ariados. Now Spidops is actually a pretty strong Pokemon, but it's hard to judge it in a team like this, with tons of shared weaknesses, and actually, I think it's probably got more play in the Open Great League compared to the Jungle Cup. Surprisingly, the biggest problems for this team weren't fire or flying type Pokemon, but instead it was Diggersby and Clodsire that caused me the most issues, resisting the majority of my moves and also being able to hit for super effective damage with both Fire Punch and Stone Edge. Now you can argue that I should have just used a Rockrunnid, but I wanted to try Ariados with a bit of a unique charge moveset combination, dropping Lunge, which I have on the other two Pokemon, so I felt like wasn't necessary, for Cross Poison, which helps against the flying and fire type Pokemon, and it also gives it a bit of a surprise factor, especially in terms of its pacing. And then of course it does also have a chance to boost, and it certainly got a few boosts. So with that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. What is your favorite Pokemon from the Paldea region? This Pokemon doesn't have to be in Pokemon Go just yet, but let me know in the comment section down below. And with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Let's go into the first battle, leading Spidops into Dunsparce. So this is not a great matchup for me since I'm not running counter as the fast move. I say swap into Ariados and instantly met with a Talonflame, but I do have some coverage here. We can go for Cross Poisons. Unfortunately, not getting a boost on the first attempt, but we can go for a second Cross Poison. Cross Poison number 2, grabs a shield, and here you can see I lag. I should have easily reached a third Cross Poison, but for whatever reason, we lag by one turn, and then we don't get damage registration error either. And so unfortunately, I should have grabbed both shields there, but I don't do that. But they're now going to swap out, realizing they probably can't tank 2 Volt Switches, so we go straight for a Lunge. Lunge drops their attack, and now we come back in with the Spidops. Of course, I have to no shield this. Weather Ball is going to hit for super effective damage, but it is non-stab and debuffed. Now we can fire off a Lunge. Lunge from this range is going to get the KO, and let's see what they want to do. They come back in with that Dunsparce. The opponent gonna overfarm here, so I'm actually gonna go for a Rock Tomb, hoping this would be a CMP tie, which it is, and Rock Tomb gonna do slightly more damage than a Lunge in neutral situations. They fire off the Rock side. We come in with Galvantula. They swap back into Talonflame, clearing the debuff, but allow me to get the full farm down without taking any damage from the Incinerate. At this point, we've got back-to-back charge moves. The opponent doesn't have back-to-back charge moves, so of course I can fire off 2 discharges. First one grabs the final shield, and despite that lag there costing Ariados reaching a third charge move, I'm able to fight back and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up in there into the next battle. We're going to see a Shadow Sizzle in the lead. So, a bit of a tricky matchup for me. Shadow Galvantula is going to have a better time resisting the fast move damage, but Ariados gets completely walled. Everything I'm running is going to be double resisted. So here, we are going to fire off a Lunge. I thought maybe if I bait with a Lunge, I get to a second one, but unfortunately that is not the case. Potentially, if I threw slightly earlier than I did there, maybe we get there, but either way, we're going to come in with that Shadow Galvantula. We get the full Volt Switch farm down, and now they're going to come in with a Diggersby. Now, I did mention Diggersby was quite a difficult Pokemon for me to deal with, but I fire off the Lunge. I'm coming in with the Ariados. I've got 2 shields, so I might as well use one of them here. However, they are debuffed, so I will probably let the next Fire Punch go through. Of course, Trailblaze gonna hit for super effective damage, but the opponent is going to shield that up. The opponent fires off another Fire Punch there. They then swap, they catch onto Credilli. Now, unfortunately for me, Ariados is not running Lunge, so whilst I boost up my attack stat once again, unfortunately, Cross Poison probably won't quite get the KO. However, I go for Cross Poison here, recognizing that if it doesn't KO, I can now go for a full farm down. I'm going to come out with a Trailblaze loaded, so if Diggersby did just bank a charge move, it doesn't really matter, as of course, we can go straight for that Trailblaze. Trailblaze gets the KO there, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up in there into the next battle. We're going to see a Gastrodon in the lead. So, this is definitely a great lead matchup for the Spidops. I'm going to outpace them to a Water Pulse. They do end up throwing just a Body Slam, which is fine with me. Body Slam, not going to deal too much there. They then swap into a Snarl Mandibuzz. So, firing off the Rock Tomb, debuffing their attack stat, and now swapping into Shadow Galvantula. Now, usually I would shield here, but I've just debuffed their attack. We can tank a Dark Pulse, and the opponent actually going to be fully farmed down there. We come out with back-to-back lunges, so firing off that first one straight away. Lunge, going to be no-shielded, and we can go straight for lunge number 2. Lunge gets the KO there. Their final Pokemon is going to be a Credilli, and they're on Bullet Seed. So I'm going to double resist the fast move damage here. Unfortunately, once again, not running Lunge on Ariados, but I don't think it's going to be costly here. We can go straight for Trailblaze. Trailblaze likely gets shielded as the opponent can debuff my attack stat once again. But now, because of that better pacing of Cross Poison, I'm able to reach a Cross Poison before they go for a second debuff. Now, of course, Rock Tomb gonna hit for super effective, but I am able to tank that. I now swap back into the Spidops. I'm able to outpace them as I had slight residual energy. Lunge grabs the final shield, and this is certainly game over. I can just safely shield up the Rock Tomb. I will outpace to the next Lunge, and of course, even with a debuff from this range, it's super effective damage. Lunge takes out Credilli, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. Going to see a Talonflame in the lead. So, of course, not a great lead matchup for me, but I do have Rock Tomb for coverage. I'm going to throw it straight away. It's quite likely that people know the moveset already on the Spidops, so maybe I could have gotten away with baiting with a Lunge there, but there's no point taking that risk. I don't intend on shielding here. They go for a Fly. Fly, going to get the KO, but they swap straight away into Morpeko. They probably recognize that if I stayed in with the Spidops, maybe Talonflame is quite strong into my team. So, they swap out immediately into Morpeko. They grab a shield advantage. I recognize that was just going to be a Psychic Fangs, but if I no shield there, Talonflame just incinerates, farms down the rest of the team. Whereas now, they throw straight away, but that gives pretty much a full Volt Switch in for free. Ariados can come in and just barely outpace them to the Cross Poison. Once again, Cross Poison, very nice pacing there, coming in clutch for me, and the opponent recognizing that they can't really throw here because Galvantula then gets full farm down, but Cross Poison gets the KO. They've got Superior in the back, and I'm able to take that game. Now, of course, if they did throw the charge move with the Talonflame, Galvantula farms down, and we get to 2 lunges up against Superior anyway, so there wasn't really a win condition for them. But into the next battle, we are going to see, I can't actually remember what we saw in the lead, but they say swap into Furret. I'm going to come in straight away with the Ariados, going for the Trailblaze. Trailblaze actually going to be shielded by the Furret, which is quite surprising. They can definitely tank a charge move very comfortably from the Ariados, but now, of course, I am boosted. I'm going to farm up to back-to-back Cross Poisons here, and I should be able to throw both of these. Cross Poison actually grabs the final shield, and then we get a boost. That is huge. Ariados dealing huge damage with that Cross Poison. Unfortunately, just barely not able to get the KO, but that's fine with me. I realized I don't actually need Switch Advantage. I'm hoping I can Shadow Claw farm down with the Spidops. Unfortunately, that isn't the case, so they will reach a Swift here, so that's probably a misplay, but Swift is not going to deal that much damage. They come back in with their lead Pokemon, which, of course, was an Altaria, which obviously I forgot about, but now we can reach back-to-back Rock Tombs because we went for that farm down up against the Furret. Rock Tomb gets the KO there. They're going to come in with their final Pokemon, a Credilli, and all I've got to do is shield up the charge move. The opponent likely going to try and make a catch here, so the opponent swaps back into the Furret. We hold on to the energy, and now we've got back-to-back lunges. Of course, they did just debuff my attack stats, so I do need 2 charge moves to get the KO. First one does big damage. Second lunge certainly will be enough to take out Credilli's. The opponent probably just exited out the app there, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's to opponent there. I did actually go 5-0 with this team, but then things suddenly sort of started falling apart as we saw a lot of core breakers to the team. But into the next battle, we're going to see a Spidops mirror match. They are 1 turn behind, so I do realize this is just going to be a lunge, but now they debuff my attack stat. Of course, Rock Tomb not going to deal as much damage. So, Rock Tomb coming through, they are going to correctly no shield, but now I'm going to swap catch a lunge onto Ariados. Lunge is going to be resisted there by the poison typing. They swap back into Stunfisk, but that's fine with me. I can go straight for Trailblaze here. Trailblaze is going to boost up my attack stat once again, and the opponent will be firing off a Mud Bomb. Mud Bomb is going to deal decent damage, but it doesn't quite put me into Thunder Shock farm down range. Now we fire off the Trailblaze here. The opponent likely going to throw just before we reach another charge move, but actually we've got Cross Poison, and Cross Poison actually just narrowly doesn't get the KO there. That is really unfortunate. But Mud Bomb gets the KO. I come in with Galvantula looking to farm down, but they swap back into Spidops. Of course, definitely going to shield here as they full send the Rock Tomb. And let's see what the opponent has in the back. The opponent waiting out the switch clock. They come in with an Abomasnow, so I'm going straight for Lunge here. Lunge, of course, going to debuff their attack stat. We now swap straight away back into the Spidops, going for another Lunge. Lunge is going to connect, but it actually doesn't really do that much damage. Now here the opponent tries to make a catch. You don't actually see Stunfisk even coming in there, but they did try and swap out there. So of course, we're going to throw straight away. That's a CMP tie, which of course the Abomasnow does win. We go for lunge, once again debuffing their attack stat, and now my switch clock comes up just in time. But does this actually help me? Weather Ball, gonna deal decent damage. The opponent overfarms as much as they possibly can here. This is gonna be so close. Weather Ball gets the KO there. One Shadow Claw doesn't get the farm down, and then we end up losing CMP again. Honestly, perfectly played by the opponent there, so GG's to that trainer. Into next battle, we're going to see a Corviknight in the lead. So a bit of a tricky lead matchup for me, but honestly not the worst thing because, of course, I am going to resist the fast move damage. They go for an air cutter. They actually don't get the boost there. We swap straight away into Galvantula, and I will just go straight for a lunge. Now, of course, lunge, I didn't throw on perfect timing there, but it is quite tricky with a 4-turn fast move up against a 3-turn fast move. And unfortunately, they are going to reach back-to-back rock sides here just barely before we get a full farm down. I realize I kind of need Galvantula to take out the Corviknight, so we go for the farm down, but they're going to have a Clodsire in the back. And honestly, there's really not a lot I can do here. Of course, I'm now down 2 shields, and they've got a Pokemon that wills pretty much every single charge move, apart from the Trailblaze, which is going to hit for neutral damage, but either way, that's just really not going to help me that much. We're going to go for another Rock Tomb here. The opponent probably should just be no-shielding this, saving both shields for the Clodsire, but of course, they don't know what I've got in the back, so if they haven't already guessed that we are running a triple spider team, I guess they're about to find out very soon. They get 2 attack boosts there. We did debuff their attack twice, though, so kind of neutrals that, but we're going to come back in. I just go straight for discharge. I wasn't sure if I go for 1 extra volt switch. Potentially they then swap and catch the discharge onto the Clodsire. I didn't want that to happen, so here we go for a lunge. We swap into Ariados, and unfortunately, even with that debuff, 2 stone edges will be more than enough damage to get the KO here, and we just can't really deal much damage with these Trailblazers. First one is correctly no shielded, as the next one, if we get to it, would do more damage, but the opponent already at stone edge number 2. There's nothing I can do there, and so I just concede the match. So, GG's up on there. Into the next battle, we're going to see Dedenne in the lead. So, this is kind of okay. They swap into a Shadow Kanto Marowak. Unfortunately, I've thrown really poor timing there. I don't know what's up with my timing right now. And unfortunately, because of that, I barely miss out on reaching a second lunge before they get to the rock side. So I'm actually forced to go down a shield there, which of course isn't ideal for me. I'd probably live the rock side there, but either way, wanted to shield anyways, as it would do more damage than a parabolic charge coming from Dedenne. So no shield there. Now we're going to go for a Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb not going to do too much damage here, but it is going to debuff their attack stat. We now swap into Ariados, and the opponent comes in with a Gastrodon. So, of course, we've got Trailblaze. That does huge damage. They actually just barely tank it. But I'm already at a Cross Poison here. So, Cross Poison is going to be grabbing a shield from the opponent. Unfortunately, no boost there with the Cross Poison, but I can shield 1 charge move. They probably just bait with a Body Slam, which means they will reach another Body Slam here. But that's fine. We can tank this. We're going to come out with another Cross Poison loaded, and the opponent doesn't know what I've got in the bag, but likely they do just let this move go through, realizing there's not a lot of play for them, and so I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up in there. Into the next battle, we're going to see a Diggersby in the lead. So, really tricky for me to deal with because, of course, my Shadow Claws are double resisted. Spidops does actually have access to counter as well, which would certainly help in this matchup. It probably still doesn't mean it's a winning matchup for the Spidops, although maybe in the 2-shield scenario, if you shield the first 2 fire punches and start lunging them, maybe you do have a chance there. But either way, I opted for Shadow Claw for more neutral play into Pokemon like Talonflame and Altaria, which are also problematic Pokemon for this team. But anyway, we are going to double debuff them. We now come in with the Ariados. Now I can take a Fire Punch fairly comfortably. They're going to come in with Altaria, and of course they would typically wall the Ariados here, but I do have access to Cross Poison. I'm now going to look to overfarm just a little bit, fire off Cross Poison number 2, and Cross Poison is going to be no shielded. Now they throw at the perfect timing there. Really good play by the opponent. We're going to go for another Cross Poison, hoping to get a boost here, and Cross Poison coming through is going to be shielded. We do finally get a boost, but then the opponent makes a brilliant catch there, catching back onto Diggersby. Cross Poison is resisted, and not only that, we just barely missed out on reaching yet another Cross Poison. Honestly, that is not ideal for me, but the opponent throws on poor timing there, and that's going to allow Galvantula to get a full Volt Switch farm down. Now, Altaria does have a Charge Move loaded, so I'm going to swap out straight away, able to catch a Charge Move there. That is huge for me. We do still have play. It depends what they've got in the back, and it's going to be a Crustle. Now, it just depends. Can we deal enough damage? The opponent no shields the lunge. It does decent damage, but it doesn't quite put them into Volt Switch farm down range before the opponent will be reaching a Rock Wrecker. Now, of course, I've double debuffed them. That is irrelevant. Rock Wrecker still easily KOs Shadow Galvantula, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG to opponent into the next battle. We're going to see a Togekiss in the lead. Of course, not a great lead matchup for me, but again, that pacing to Cross Poison is very nice. It enables me to outpace them to the first charge move, and it does force a shield. Now, the opponent is going to stay in with the Togekiss. I'm going to shield up a Side Shock here. I can outpace him to the next move as well. And of course, Cross Poison going to be double shielded. The opponent is going to throw just as we are reaching the next Cross Poison. So smart play by the opponent, and that overfarm will actually just barely allow them to reach yet another charge move up against my Galvantula. Now, I should live a Side Shock here, but I'm going to shield anyways. Galvantula, very squishy. Then I'm going to come in with the Dene. So at this point, we're going to fire off the lunge. Lunge is resisted, so is Discharge. And now I can swap out, and I'm able to catch a debuffed Play Rough. Now, the opponent fires off the Play Rough. They then swap into a Kanto Marowak. This time, it's a non-shadow. So, I'm going to go straight for Lunge once again. Lunge is going to connect there, and that certainly puts them into range where a second Lunge will KO. Now, they do overfarm slightly, but not enough for them to outpace me to this next charge move. And, of course, once again, I'm going to go straight for that Lunge. Lunge gets the KO there. Now it's a race. The opponent should actually just go straight for Parabolic Charge, but they probably didn't think that was enough damage. It is resisted damage there, but Discharge gets the KO, and certainly if they just went for the electric type charge move, it would have taken me out, and unfortunately I would have lost that game, but they didn't know that. So of course we do win there, but GG's to that trainer. Into next battle, we tried to swap out straight away. It backfires as for some reason it just doesn't work, and we end up throwing one extra fast move. The opponent then catches a Cross Poison. However, since they've seen Cross Poison, we can now go for Trailblaze. They did not expect that, and now we get the one shot. They come back in with the Togekiss. That's fine with me. Side Shock, gonna get the KO. They do have quite a lot of energy, so unfortunately I am gonna shield here, and they might even reach another charge move up against the Galvantula, but no, they swap into their final Pokemon. Unfortunately, a Pokemon that completely walls the energy here, but we go for Lunge. Lunge is gonna be no shielded, and that is actually quite huge for me because Shadow Claws are gonna hit for super effective. They also bait with a Brutal Swing, which seems bad, but that actually means they don't debuff my attack stat. And now, of course, these Shadow Claws are still chunking. We debuff their attack stat with a Lunge, so Rock Tomb doesn't get the KO. They come back in with that Togekiss, but I will reach a Lunge. Lunge is going to be shielded by the opponent. We then come in, we get the snipe with the Volt Switch, and can we outpace them? It's close, but Galvantula just barely able to reach the Lunge. Lunge resisted, but it gets the KO, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's to opponent into the next battle. We're going to see another Togekiss in the lead. Honestly, these were 3 battles in a row where I was like, come on, man. Enough with these Togekiss leads. But again, we swap into Ariados. And again, they do allow me to reach that Cross Poison first. And they're also not swapping out. So at this point, going to shield the Side Shock, and the opponent's now going to come in with a Shadow Charizard. So double flying so far. Obviously, the opponent doesn't believe rock types exist, and neither do I because I'm running a triple bug team. So we're on the same page here. Unfortunately for me, though, double flying into my triple bug team is quite problematic, but the opponent probably not expecting a Shadow Galvantula. We get a full Volt Switch farm down, which is very nice. Then I'm going to come in with a Diggersby, which is not really ideal for me. They come back in with the Togekiss, and this is going to be a non-stab Side Shock, which we can tank, not super comfortably. I am going to look to overfarm here. Don't really want to put myself into range where Diggersby gets a full quick attack farm down, but they are going to outpace me to this next move. So I'm going to shield this because I need to get off a Lunge here, but honestly, I don't know if Lunge really helps me out that much. Fire Punch is still pretty much going to KO the Galvantula from this range. I'm going to continue to overfarm. We get very close to the Lunge there. We swap into Galvantula. Fire Punch is going to put me into farm down range. Unfortunately, lunge wouldn't get the KO anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But the opponent comes out with another fire punch loaded, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG to opponent there. Into the next battle, we're going to see a Guzzlord in the lead. They say swap into Diggersby. Not ideal for me again. I don't really know what to do up against Diggersby, but we are going to go and land a lunge there. Quite glad that I can go for that lunge before they go for the first fire punch. And now they've thrown a fire punch, I'm swapping into my Ariados. So the opponent is going to go for another fire punch. Well, never mind. They actually go for a Scorching Sands there. I guess I didn't realize that at the time. I don't know if Scorching Sands does more damage into this matchup, but either way, I think the safe play here is just to go straight for a Cross Poison. Again, kind of taking them off guard there. We do get the KO this time, but they come in with a Shadow Scissor. And of course, they should know this, but they are going to double resist everything we can throw here. So they do correctly know shield, but we can now come in with that Shadow Galvantula. These Volt Switches are going to do big damage. The opponent does reach another charge reef, but I believe this Volt Switch will get the KO. So Night Slash grabs the final shield. We can go for 2 Volt Switches, throwing on good timing. And actually, that Shadow Scissor did not go down there. So we do have to be careful of a potential catch. But we come in with the Spide Ups. We catch the Brutal Swing. We can now outpace them just barely to a Lunge. And Lunge, I kind of need to grab the final shield here, because Lunge probably doesn't KO or even come that close with the Spide Ups, but Shadow Galvantula, of course, much more attack weighted. We're going to come in, the opponent swaps back straight away into Shadow Scissor, but we actually didn't have the energy yet, so that's huge for me, and as a result, we come out with the Lunge. Lunge gets the KO there, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG to opponent there. Into the next battle, going to see a Drifblim in the lead. So, of course, decent matchup for me. They're going to say swap into Dunsparce, and I will come in with the Ariados. Not because Ariados has a particularly good matchup here, but it is useless into that Drifblim, so we might as well just get rid of it. And of course, both my Spide Ups and Galvantula are actually fairly okay into the Drifblim, so it's not that bad. But here, unfortunately, they will get a full farm down. They do, however, let the Cross Poison go through, which is huge for me, because now I can come in with the Galvantula, and hopefully, unless they get damage registration error, I should be able to go for 2 Volt Switches and get the farm down before they reach back-to-back rock sides. So we do get that farm down there, huge for me, but they're going to come in with a Kanto Marowak. So of course, I'm going to fire off a Lunge here and then swap back into the Spide Ops. The opponent is going to be swapping out, clearing the debuff by swapping into Drifblim, and this is a fine matchup for the Spide Ops. We go for the Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb going to be shielded by the opponent, and now because I've debuffed their attack stat, I can tank this very comfortably. Just going to be an icy win there, doesn't do much damage. I now look to overfarm, firing off yet another Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb, I'm actually going to go for a slight undercharge there. Doesn't really matter as they end up shielding anyways, and now hopefully Shadow Galvantula should be able to sweep this game. They come back in with the Marowak, but they swap out, so they give a full Volt Switch in for free. So I'm going straight for Lunge here. No messing around, no overfarming. Lunge gets the KO, and can we get the farm down? We actually don't, and it's a simultaneous KO there. Honestly, I was very worried at that point, but GG's to that trainer. So heading into the next battle, we're going to see a Unnovan Stunfisk in the lead. This is a fine matchup for me, especially we don't want to see it up against our Galvantula, but they're going to swap into Shadow Scissor. I can go straight for Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb is going to be shielded by the opponent, and now we can probably live this and reach another Rock Tomb before they get the farm down or before they reach another Night Slash. So we fire off the Rock Tomb number 2. Are they going to double shield? They are. So at this point we come in with Shadow Galvantula, and the opponent is going to throw it on poor timing. It doesn't really matter how much energy they've got here. They only get off a single Night Slash, and now we can go for a Lunge. Excuse me there. We go for Lunge, debuff from their attack stat, and now I'm hoping Ariados with 2 shields can sweep this game. I don't go and shield there because I realize Lunge still isn't really going to put them into farm down range. I've only got resisted fast move damage on the Galvantula and the Ariados. So now we come in. I'm going to shield here just in case they have something like a Talonflame in the back, where if I no shield, even though they're debuffed, we just get fast move farmed down by that Talonflame. So now I'm boosted. I feel a little bit more confident here. So I'm going to no shield. They go for a Mud Bomb. They come in with Credilli, and again, we don't have access to Lunge, but it doesn't really make a difference. We can go for Cross Poison. Already at Cross Poison number 2. And at this point, Cross Poison is going to, of course, connect, and we can get to another Cross Poison as they just underestimate the energy generation. And of course, Cross Poison gets the KO there. They come back in. They realize it's game over, so they stop attacking, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG to open there into next battle, and this is the final battle of this video. One of the earlier battles I did with this team, I actually led with Galvantula initially, used Spidops as a safe swap, but it didn't really work out for me. But this is such a crazy battle here that I've kept it in anyways. So here, of course, Clodsire. We really can't do much into this Pokemon at all, but I am going to be able to tank a Stone Edge, and now I can go for another lunge here before, well, throwing on CMP, I believe, with the next charge move. So Stone Edge number 2 will get the KO, but that's okay with me. Stone Edge takes us out. We can come in with the Ariados, and I'm going to look to overfarm just slightly, but they make a really nice catch there, catching a double resisted Trailblaze onto an Altaria. Now, I don't really want to come in with the Galvantula. I am boosted now, so I might as well go for Cross Poison. And Cross Poison also gets the boost. That is huge for me. We are now triple boosted in our attack stat. They fire off the Sky Attack. I'm now going to look to overfarm here, going for yet another Cross Poison. Cross Poison will get the KO from this range, and it does exactly that. Now they come in with the Clodsire once again. We go for a Trailblaze. We are now 4 stages boosted in our attack stat. I'm going to have to shield here because Galvantula cannot take out this Pokemon. We're now going to look to overfarm. No, never mind. We're going to go straight for Trailblaze here. Trailblaze should be grabbing the final shield, and it does. We then swap out. We make a catch onto Galvantula. However, we now just cleared all of that boost there. So the opponent is going to swap out, but their final Pokemon is going to be Wigglytuff here. So we go for another Cross Poison. Cross Poison gets yet another boost. We do overfarm, but we can't really overfarm by too much. We are very low. Cross Poison gets the KO there, but the opponent just barely outpacing me by one fast move. And of course, I was double boosted. Trailblaze, I hope, would have got the KO from that range, but unfortunately, we do lose that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way, you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Now, if you want to take your support to the next level, you can become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments of every video. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has become a channel member already. Your support is greatly appreciated. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.